So this is the paint gun that you use for spraying, and for it you have three main controls: this wheel, and this wheel. So the bottom one is for the air adjustment. This, by turning it in and out, will adjust how much air comes in and then out the nozzle. The second one is the large wheel in the back, and that adjusts the amount of paint in the paint flow, which again comes through the middle and out the nozzle. And the final one is the top. So this is for the fan, and that adjusts the shape of the stream. So by turning it in and out, you either get a more circular point or you get a vertical or horizontal fan shape. And finally, you put your paint in the canister and just make sure it's nice and clean before you put your paint in. So now to mix your paint, you get a plastic container, and for it we use the automotive acrylic. So you pour a small amount into the container, and you get a stick to mix with. So with the paint as it is, it's quite thick. You can see it comes off as a stream, and if you paint your model in this way, you get quite a bumpy texture and you won't get a nice finish. So to change this, we need to add some thinners. So it's important to remember that this can here is the clean thinners that you add to your paint when mixing, and this one here is recycled thinners, which is used for cleaning out your guns and any paint brushes that you use. So this is the thinners that you add, and it's roughly 1 part paint to 1 part thinners. So you just add it slowly so you get your mixture right. So it's important that you mix it nice and well so you get a nice coverage on your model. And you can see whether the mix is right by how it drops off. So you want drips coming off the end of the stirrer instead of a stream that we had before. So now that we have your paint, before you start painting, again make sure it's nice and clean inside and make sure that the instruction fan's on. And then mixing your paint again a little bit. You just pour a small amount into the canister and then put the lid on top. And now you're ready to paint. So adjusting it, you see that now it's not a nice coverage, and then by adjusting this we get a different shape. So it's more of a point. And with the paint gun, if you pull a small amount in, you just get air. So that's great for spraying dust off your model or giving a light air coat to your paint. Or by pulling it in all the way, then you get the paint. So that one, because you can see the dribbles in it, we want to have a little bit less paint. And now we're getting a nicer coverage. So when you paint, you keep it about 30 centimetres away from your piece. And you spray in slow sweeping motions. And you see that you get a nice coverage. So with your coat, it should have a bit of a sheen to it, but if you go thicker, you're going to get dribbles and it will ruin your work. So when you go to spray your model, put a glove on to protect your hand, and then you start with the bottom, doing a coat on there. When the base dries, you flip it over to do the top. If the model goes to blow away, you can put some tape on, so it stays in place. With your gun ready, hold it about 30 centimetres away, and then spray in the sweeping motions. So once you've got the edges done, you can do the flatter surfaces. And then you'll wait for that to dry. So we'll turn that over. And then you do the top. So again, focusing on the edges and then doing the flatter surfaces. So now doing the even surfaces, give it a nice smooth coat. And then you put that on the shelf to dry, ready for your next coat. So when you finish painting, it's important that you clean the gun ready for the next person. So any remaining paint, you tip back into your container. And then here we have the recycled thinners. So this is good for cleaning the majority out. So you pour a small amount in, and then using a rag or a brush, you can clean it out. So we just clean a bit first and pour it in. And finally, with a bit of the clean thinners we used before, spray through to make sure that the paint's out of the system. And now having it nice and clean, you can put a bit more clean thinners in to leave for the next person so that the paint doesn't dry inside the gun. So with your leftover paint, make sure you put the lid on the container and fill out one of these labels with your name, whether you've added thinners, and the date that you mixed it. Stick it on the side with some masking tape, and then you can keep it on the shelf for your next coat.